Right. Hello. Good evening, students. Right. So today we are going to start a new unit. Right. One not simply a new unit. It is the most important and most valuable unit in your syllabus. Right. So still the students are joining. Right. So. I told you that if you are having some issues, we need some time to resolve. That is why I asked you to join early. But anyway, we resolve some of the questions, right? So, uh, right. Hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening. I hope the sound is clear and loud enough, Pute. Right? Mm, just give me 1 second. Right. All clear. Okay. Right. So, I hope the tute is there. Everybody has downloaded the tute, and uh, uh, the link is also there. So from next day, next week onwards, right? This is the way that you have to join the class. You have to go through this website, and now you know the where to find the link and the tute. So, right. So usually the tute I will upload few days prior to the class, so you can, if you want to take printouts, you can do all these things, right? Okay, right. So we'll start the new unit number 5. It is animal form and function, right? Animal form and function, right? So, uh, right now it's clear, no? Okay, there is a network. Right. Okay. So now, Bhute, in unit number 4, we learned about the plant form and functions, right? So in there, you got a clear idea about the kingdom Plantae, right? And their structure, their functions, their reproduction, and various things. Most of the things about the plant life you studied in unit number 4, that is plant form and function. So here, it is the animal form and function, but there is a difference between unit 4 and unit 5. Unit 4, you learned generally about the plants, especially about the vascular plants, right? And so in unit 5, though the name say animal form and function, here you are not going to learn merely about a general idea about the kingdom Animalia. It's not, right? Yes, you are going to get a general idea about the kingdom Animalia. It is about 10% of this unit, and 90% you are going to learn about the human body, right? So human biology is the main thing that you are going to learn in this unit, human biology, right? So that means we have various organ systems. From your O levels, you know about the respiratory system, cardiovascular system, gastrointestinal system, urinary or excretory system, reproductive system, immune system, right? Likewise, homeostasis, various nervous system, musculoskeletal system, right? Likewise, various organ systems are there. So, for example, you take the gastrointestinal system, right, or digestive system. So when you learn the digestive system, you get a basic idea about the digestive activity of all other phyla, and then you learn the human gastrointestinal system, right? Another example, if you are learning the cardiovascular system, you get a basic idea about the cardiovascular system or material exchange, the transport of materials, the systems that are there in the other animals. Get a basic idea. Then in detail, you learn the cardiovascular system of the human beings, right? That is how it goes. Okay, so I am just giving a basic idea what you are going to learn in this unit, right? So basically the human biology, our organ systems are going to be learned, right? Now believe me, from your final exam, right? So out of 100 marks, about 35 marks are gained from this particular unit. So if you forget about all other 9 units and study only this one, still you can get a S pass, right? Don't do that. Huh? I'm just saying that. So this unit is that much valuable. And another thing, right? So some of new students are also there, right? So about our class pattern, right? So what we do is we do the theory explanation, theory class in detail, right? One of my main intention is to understand the theory, understand the concepts, understand the facts in biology at the class itself, right? You know, biology is, I am always telling that biology is not easy, but it is not impossible, right? I'm not telling that it is very easy. So it's not like other aesthetic subject. It is science. It is a bit complicated. So that is why the high IQ students like you have chosen the biology, right? So biology is a bit complicated, but you have to work hard, right? So the main secret behind the biology is you have to understand the biology, right? So my main intention is to make you understand the biology. Then it is easy for you to remember and understand the thing, and then go to the exam and write whatever the things that you have learned, right? So it is not difficult for you to remember the concepts and work out in your brain and to put all the things that you know as an answer in the question paper is not difficult if you understand the biology. So you have to understand the biology, number one. Number two, so while I am teaching and while you are learning and while you understand these concepts, if you have any doubt, any question, any issue in understanding why this is this thing, and I don't understand this thing, or likewise, if you get any issue, Pute, while in the live class, you can put a message in the chat box, and then and there I can answer. So time to time, I am reading the questions and I am explaining. So this is more or less like a live physical class, right? The only difference is you don't have to travel and I don't have to travel. So I am doing the class in my studio and you are learning in at your room. That is the only thing, right? Other than that, you should ask questions. If you have any questions, I am answering those things, right? So our class is like a family. My old students know that. right? So we all know each other, right? We can share whatever the things biology related or unrelated, anything, right? I am there to help you, right? So we'll carry on our class like that. And okay, right. So that is the introduction about our class for my new students, right? So don't miss it, right? This is the most important one, and we'll go like that. And some many of the students and the parents ask me about the paper class, right? Usually we will start a paper class at September, right? After your seniors sit for the exam in August, and we'll take about 1 month break. And from September we'll do a paper class in parallel to the theory class. So that is more than enough, right? So in the paper class, you will be practice to answer the MCQ questions, SCQ questions, and the essay questions, right? Okay. Right. So we'll move on with the unit number 5. No questions, right? Okay. Right. So in human biology, Pute, in this unit, you are going to learn about the systems, right? Can you remember in unit number 1, Introduction to Biology, we learned about the hierarchical levels of the biology or the biosphere or the organization, right? Can you remember the hierarchical levels of organization? It started with what? Biomolecules, and then organelles, then cell, then tissues, then organs, then organ system. Remember, right? Don't forget this minute knowledge, minute fact is a mark, right? Now in unit 1 also there are various concepts that you have to remember, because at the first MCQ comes from the unit number 1, and some of the SCQ questions can come from the unit number 1. There are very, very important definitions, right? Definitions of growth, development, adaptation, evolution, reproduction, likewise, right? The main features of the living organisms, right? Sustainable food production, natural resources, right? All these things you have to remember, right? So these are the levels of organizations, organ systems, and then you produce the organism, right? One person here, right? And then population, then community, right? Then ecosystems, and then biosphere, right? So these are the hierarchical levels of organizations, right? Or the living world has organized in such a way that from the very simple biomolecules, it has complex and organized in a manner up to the top point of biosphere in this order, right? So here we learn about the cell in unit number 2, right? Everything about the cell and tissues, right? So when we learn about the unit number 4, where we learn about the plants, and we started learning or studying about the plants, first we got an idea about what are the tissues that are there in the plants. Can you remember we learned about 4 tissues? The first one is the meristematic tissues, and the permanent ones were dermal, vascular, and the ground tissue. So 4 types of tissues we learned, right? And then the organ systems, right? So in animalia, right, kingdom animalia, or the animal form and function, or in human biology in unit number 5, Pute, this is the place that we are going to learn organ systems, right? We are going to learn about the gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, reproductive system, excretory system, nervous system, musculoskeletal system, endocrine system, homeostasis, like this. About 11 systems you are going to learn, right? So before we start learning the organ systems, first we'll get an idea about the types of tissues that we have. What are the types of tissues that an animal or a human is having, right? So we'll start the unit by learning what are the types of tissues that we have. That is the lesson that you are going to learn today, right? So you are going to have a basic but in detail, precise and unique knowledge about the tissues that we have. So tissues make the organs and the organ system. You take whatever the organs system, all these organ systems are made by these tissues. So we are going to talk about 4 tissues, like any plants having 4 tissues. We are also having 4 types of tissues, right? So today we'll learn about these 4 types of tissues, and from next day onwards we'll start from the gastrointestinal system. Okay, right? So first we'll get a basic idea about what are the systems that you are going to learn during this unit, right? Okay. Understand, Pute? So we are teaching from the very beginning, very basics, right? So previous knowledge about the previous classes unit is not essential for this one, huh? Right. So first thing that you are going to learn here, you are going to learn about the tissues, going to learn and get a basic idea about what are the 4 types of tissues that we have in our body, right? Then you are going to learn about the gastrointestinal system. I am just putting the abbreviations. You don't write the abbreviations, right? Don't write it. I will give the time to fill the tube, right? And the other thing that I want to tell you about the new students, right? So I am usually giving you the tube with some of the blanks, right? Blanks are kept to you to fill, right? So I will explain the theory in detail. So you have to understand when I teach it, right? If you have any questions, you can put a message and ask it and clarify it, understand it, and then we'll go by filling the tubes, right? So rather than giving you the printed tube itself, you some of the important things will not go into your gray matter in your brain, right? That is why I am asking you to fill these gaps with me, so that will emphasize and that will enable you to keep the things, facts in your gray matter, not in your white matter in your brain. Okay, right? So gastrointestinal system, and then cardiovascular system. I will write this one, otherwise gastrointestinal, right? And then respiratory system, right? Immune system, excretory system, nervous system, you can see, right? Sensory structures, endocrine system, homeostasis, reproductive system, and skeletal system. Right. So these are the 12 topics that you are going to learn in this unit, right? So we'll start the unit learning by studying about the types of tissues that you have in the human body, right? And then gastrointestinal system, that means the digestive system, right? and cardiovascular system, the heart and the blood vessels, the arteries and veins, right? The respiratory system, you're going to learn about the lungs and the starting from the nostrils, right? Immune system means the protective system that we have to attack with the pathogens and the foreign bodies, right? So you are going to have a very good idea about the immune system. And excretory system is the kidneys and the urine, how the urine is produced to excrete or remove the unwanted things from your body, right? And nervous system, about the coordination, how the brain and the nerves, sensory and the motor nerves are working, right? And sensory structures, you are going to learn about the eye, you are going to learn about the ear, right? And the tongue, all these things, right? Endocrine system is about the hormonal system, about the thyroid gland and the pituitary gland, all these things from up to the ovaries, right? And thyroid and all these things. Homeostasis, how you are maintaining a static environment in your internal body, right? Without changing, despite of the changes in the external environment. It's a very interesting topic, right? And the reproductive system, most important thing and popular system in your age, right? So how the male and the female reproductive system makes, and not on your only on your age, right? This is very important for the existence of the species. In any animal species, right, the next generation is produced because of the reproductive system, right? So important. And skeletal, musculoskeletal system, how your bones and the muscles are arranged and they are working, right? So these are the 12 things, systems that you are going to learn, right? Okay, so shall we quickly write these things in your note, and we'll move on to start in learning the tissues, right? Okay, so if you have any issues, as I told you earlier, right, you can put a message. This is if you have any kind of, don't think that this is a simple question, I will be embarrassed if I ask that question. No, don't think about that, right? There are no silly questions, right? Ask any questions. I am very happy if you ask questions, right? Usually my old students know, right? So they ask various questions if they have any doubts. So I am explaining then and there, so you will understand. So this is not a routine and routine online class, right? So this is more or less a very interactive class, more than a physical class, right? So keep that interaction with you and me. And after the class end also, if you have any questions, you can put that question in the WhatsApp box group, so I can answer you. Okay, right. Right, so I will share the tute. Mm, give me 1 second. Some of the students have sent some messages to WhatsApp. There's a okay. Right, okay, okay. So this is the tutorial, right? I hope all of you can see, right? So tute number 1. So in this tute, you are going to learn about the tissues, types of tissues that you have in your body, right? So first, this is a outline what you are going to learn in this unit, right? We'll write, these are the 12 topics, including the 11 systems and the tissues. We'll write quickly, Pute. The number 1 is tissues of the body. Number 1 is tissues of the body. Number 2, gastrointestinal system. Gastrointestinal system. Number 3, cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system. Number 4, respiratory system. Number 4, respiratory system. Number 5, immune system. Immune system. Number 6, excretory system. Number 6, excretory system. Number 7, nervous system. Number 7, nervous system. Number 8, sensory structures. Number 8, sensory structures. Sensory structures. Number 9, endocrine system. Number 9, endocrine system. Number 10, homeostasis. Homeostasis. You know about the homeostasis. Homeostasis means maintaining a static and stable internal environment despite of changes in the external environment. For example, temperature, right? So you have your temperature maintaining, right? Whatever the temperature changes in the external environment, right? So likewise, how it is maintained and all these things are learned in the homeostasis, right? So number 11 is reproductive system. Number 11 is reproductive system. And number 12 is skeletal system. Skeletal system. Skeletal system. Okay. Right. So first we learn about the tissues of the body. Tissues of the body, right? So I told you that animals are having 4 types of tissues, basic types of tissues, right? So what are those 4 types of tissues, Pute? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Okay. Now, what is a tissue, Pute? Tissue means a collection of cells, right, which are adapted or specialized for one or few common functions. Right? Tissue is a collection of cells which are specialized or unique for functioning specific one or few functions, right? So you take all these systems that we wrote a bit earlier: gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, all these systems. All these systems, every system, or else in other words, our whole body, human body, is made up by these 4 types of tissues, right? Every system, right? Okay. So before you go to each of these individual systems, right? So we'll get a basic idea what is a epithelial tissue, right? What is a connective tissue? What is a muscular tissue? And what is a nervous tissue, right? Understood? Right. So we learn about all these 4 types of tissues, and remember, these 4 types of tissues are the ones who make all the other organ systems, right? So epithelial, connective, muscular, and nerves, right? So out of that, first we'll learn about the epithelial tissues, right? Epithelial tissues. Okay. Epithelial tissues. Right now, epithelium, the word itself, name itself gives some clue. What is that? Epithelium. Now, epithelial tissue is are the ones, right, which covers a surface or an inner lining, right? Either internal surface or an external surface is covered by a epithelial tissue, right? For example, you take an organ, right? This is an organ. Take the liver, right? So the external surface of this organ is covered by a epithelial tissue, right? You take a part of the gut, intestinal system, right? So this is your gut, and inside is a hole, right? So all these internal lumen is covered by the epithelial tissue, right? So basically, the epithelial tissue means it is an tissue which covers either external or internal surface of a organ system or a body, right? So in our skin, you have the epithelial tissue, right? On your mouth, in the nose, right? In your gut, right? You take the bladder, you take the urethra, kidneys, right? In any place covering a surface. That surface can be the outer surface or an inner surface. This covering of the outer or inner surface is done by the epithelial tissue, right? So it is tightly packed. Usually, it is tightly packed, right? And some of the main features that you have to learn is, number one is, right, where it is located. So it covers an external or internal lining, right? Number one. Number two, the cells are usually tightly packed. Tightly packed. Right, we'll take this one a second, and it covers the surfaces, right? And the other important thing, you don't have any blood vessels inside this epithelial tissue, right? No blood vessels. No blood vessels. Right? So you may get a question then, if no blood vessels are there, how do they get the nutrients and the oxygens? Right? So usually this is the common arrangement of the epithelial tissue. You have a membrane, right? Special membrane like this. All the epithelia, right? All the types of epithelial tissues are existing or arranged on this membrane, right? On this membrane. Assume that this is the epithelial tissue, and all the epithelial tissues are arranged on a special membrane, right? This membrane is called as the basal membrane. Basal membrane. This is the epithelial tissue, right? Okay, so all the blood vessels, Pute, right? The blood vessels and the nerves, right? Everything is below the basement membrane. So whatever the nutrients that they require, whatever the oxygen that they require, water, everything is taken through the basal membrane and from the tissues that here you have, right? Here you have the connective tissue, the second type. Connective tissue is there, right? Below the basement membrane. And the epithelial tissue is above the basement membrane, right? So they get the nutrients and oxygen from the connective tissue that lies beneath the basal membrane, right? And all the waste products are also released to the connective tissue through the basal membrane, right? Another thing, no blood vessels. And the other thing, right? So you can identify two phases in this epithelial tissue, right? So here, now this space is external environment or a lumen, right? So that phase is called as apical phase. Apical phase. So this is the apical phase of the epithelial tissue, and this phase is the basal phase. Right? So two surfaces, the apical phases always exposed to the free area, either external environment or a lumen. So apical phase is free. Basal phase is attached to the basal membrane. Okay, right. So those are the basic things, basic few points that you have to know about the epithelial tissue. Right. Again, summary. Right. All the human body or the animals are made up by 4 tissues: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and the nervous tissue. Now we are going to learn about the epithelial tissues. Right. The common features about the epithelial tissue is always it covers either external surface or an inner lumen, right? So you can have one layer cell or several layers, right? So they are usually tightly packed, and you don't have the blood vessels inside the epithelial tissues. And always epithelial tissue is located on a special membrane called as basement membrane, right? This is basement, not basal. Basement membrane, right? Basement membrane, sorry, right? So on the basement membrane, the epithelial tissue is arranged, and the nutrients and oxygen, everything is taken through the basement membrane from the blood vessels and everything that is located in the connective tissue that is located beneath the basement membrane, right? So then, what are the functions of this epithelial tissue? Why there is a epithelial tissue, right? 3 main functions are there. 3 main functions, right? You know what are those 3 main functions? If this is common and common sense, right? So if something is arranged in the external or internal surface covering something, the first thing that the role of that covering structure is protection, right? So, right, you have the skin for your protection. In your land, you have a fence for your protection. In your house, you have the walls and the roof for the protection of the house, right? You are sometimes wearing various types of clothes for your protection from the heat, temperature, cold, dust, and all these things, right? So likewise, epithelial tissues, the number 1 function is protection today, right? And number 2, it is one of the function is to secrete some materials either to the lumen or to the outside. Secretion. You take the gastrointestinal system, various enzymes, saliva, and all this has to be secreted to the lumen. You take the skin, sweat, and sebum has to be secreted to outside. So secretion is another important function of the epithelial tissue, right? Secretion. And then third and last one, the opposite of secretion, that is to absorb, right? When you eat a piece of bread, right, you have the complex carbohydrates, so they are digested in your small intestine by the amylase, right? And they were divided into small disaccharides and monosaccharides, and they absorb amino acids, vitamins, water, several types of minerals. Everything is absorbed, right? So absorption is the third function of the epithelial tissue, right? Absorption. So functions of the epithelial tissues, Pute, three things, right? Protection, secretion, and absorption, right? So protection against what? Protection against mechanical injury, right? Mechanical injury. If somebody touch and attack, right, my skin will protect it, right? So, and against the bacteria and viruses and various fungi, right? Those are the pathogens. And protection against drying you off, desiccation, right? Protection against water loss, right? Your water, your blood, all the water that you have in your body is protected by this epithelium without dehydration, right? So water loss. So number one, protection, right? So you have three functions, Pute: protection, secretion, and absorption. And I'm going to describe a little bit what is protection, right? So protection against mechanical injuries, protection against pathogens. Pathogens means viruses, bacteria, and all these foreign bodies, and protection against water loss. Number one function. Number two, secretions. What are the things that you are going to secrete? Various enzymes, hormones, right? Mucus, sweat, sebum, all these you are going to secrete. Enzymes, hormones, sweat, right? And what the other thing? Mucus, right? So those are the things that you are going to secrete, right? And absorption. Third, what are the things that you're going to absorb? In the gut, nutrients you are going to absorb. In the lungs, you are going to absorb oxygen, right? Respiratory gases, right? So these are the nutrients and gases, respiratory gases are the ones that you're going to absorb. Right, again, summary. So four types of tissues are there. In that, first one is the epithelial tissue. Now, what we discussed is an overall introduction about the epithelial tissues. Right, epithelial tissues are the tissues which covers the external surface or an internal lining of an organ. Right, it is tightly packed. You can have one layer of cells or several layers. Usually, you don't have blood vessels. They are placed on a basement membrane, right? And the nutrients and the oxygen are taken through the basement membrane from the connective tissue, right? And the basic functions of the epithelial tissues are the protection, secretion, and the absorption. So protection against the mechanical injuries, pathogens, and the water loss. Secretion of various materials like enzymes, hormones, mucus, sweat, sebum, likewise. And absorption of various materials like nutrients, minerals, water, and respiratory gases, all these things, right? Those are the three types of functions, right? Then there are various types of epithelial tissues, right? So though we say a common word, epithelial tissues, there are various types of epithelial tissues. Out of that, you are going to learn about 6 epithelial types. Right? There are many, right? But advanced level, biology level, right? So you are going to learn about 6 types of epithelial tissues, right? So before we write and learn about the 6 types of epithelial tissues, shall we write these things in a tooth and come to that description? Okay, right. Up to this point, if you have any questions, this is the time to raise your question. Okay. One question has come. No, no. Yes. So does the exterior of the duct also covered by epithelial tissue? Hmm. Yes, yes. So usually you are asking the exterior of the duct also. Yes, yes, Putendra. Now, for example, you are asking if you take the gastrointestinal system, right? Gastrointestinal system is a tube starting from the mouth to the anus, right? So usually inner lining is covered by the epithelial tissue, right? Epithelium is there, and the outer side. So I'll draw it. This is what you ask, right? So usually the inner layer is covered by the epithelium, right? So here you secrete the various types of enzymes and absorb the nutrients and everything happens, right? So this is GIT, right? So more important thing is the internal lining here, right? And you are asking here also, do they have? Yes, they also have the epithelial tissue, and just outside the epithelial tissue you have the connective tissue, right? Connective tissue of fat. Now, fat cells are arranged as loose areolar tissue here, right? Therefore, the epithelial tissue that is there in this one outside surface is not that much functionally important. Here, if you consider the GIT, the most important one is the epithelial tissue that covers the inner lining, right? But for answer for your question, yes, outside also you have, but it is not that much important if you consider the GIT, right? But take the skin, right? So skin, the covering, the outside surface covering is the one that is very important. Now take the bladder, right? So if you take the bladder, so what is very important is the epithelial tissue that covers the inner lining. So yes, outside also you have, but that is not functionally that much important. But it is important to protect the bladder, right? Here also protecting the bladder, and everything is there, right? So any surface, the simple answer is any surface in your body, right? All the surfaces are covered by epithelial tissue. That is the answer. All the surfaces are covered by the epithelial tissues. Okay, good, good. Understood, Pute? Right. Any other questions, Pute? Hmm. Okay. Shall we go to the tute? Another questions in the question and answer. So does the exterior are the same one, right? Okay. Answer given. Right. So I'll share the tute again right here. Tissues of the body. I hope all of you can see the screen. Relation of structures of animal tissues to their function, right? There are four major types of animal tissues. What are the four major types, Pute? Epithelial tissue, epithelial tissue. Number two, connective tissue. Number two, connective tissue. Number three, muscle tissue. Number three, muscle tissue. Number four, nervous tissue. Number four, nervous tissue. Nervous tissue, right? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and the nervous tissue, right? Okay. So here I have given you some pictures of these things, right? So we are going to learn these in detail. You are going to draw all these things, right? Epithelial tissue. The basic characteristics, right? So the characteristics, number one, it covers external or internal free surfaces and organs. External or internal free surfaces and organs. External or internal free surfaces and organs. The cells of the tissues are closely packed, and the cells of the epithelial tissues have both apical and basal surfaces. Apical and basal surfaces. Can you remember, right? I explained these things. Apical means, Pute, the surface that is exposed to the free space is the apical surface, and the surface that is attached to the basement membrane is the basal surface, right? So where apical surface remains free, and the basal surface attached to the basement membrane, basement membrane. And another important thing, Pute, this is an MCQ point, right? No blood vessels in the tissues. No blood vessels in the tissue. You don't have blood vessels. Though the epithelial tissue is living, they are living cells. You have living cells, but don't have the blood vessels. So all the nutrients and oxygen is taken through the basement membrane from the connective tissue, right? So tissue gets nutrients and the oxygen from the underneath connective tissue, right? So I have given you some picture there just to get a basic idea. These are the types of epithelial tissues that I have that usually have in biology, but you are going to learn only 6. The star marks are put only on the 6 types of epithelial tissues that you are going to learn. Okay, right. Functions. We'll write the functions, Pute. Number 1 function, protective protection. Number 1 is protection. Number 1 is protection. Under that protection function, protection against what? Number 1, barrier against mechanical injuries. Barrier against mechanical injuries. Number 2, barrier against pathogens. Barrier against pathogens. Number 3, barrier against fluid loss. Barrier against fluid loss. Right. Number 2, secretion. Number 2, secretion. Right. What are the things that they secrete, Pute? Number 1, enzymes. Enzymes under the secretion topic. Enzymes, hormones, mucus, sweat. Enzymes, hormones, mucus, sweat. Mucus means MUCUS. That is the noun. If you write MUCUOS, it becomes an adjective. Right? So enzymes, hormones, mucus, and sweat. Number 3, absorption. Number 3 function is the absorption. And absorbing what? Nutrients. Nutrients. Number 3 is absorption. Under that absorption, what are the 2 things? We'll write 2 things that they absorb. Nutrients, and the other one is the respiratory gases. Nutrients and respiratory gases. Okay. Right. Okay. So, uh, right. So you understand up to that point, right? It is easy, no? Right. Okay. So now we'll go to the classification of epithelial tissues. What are the types of tissues that you have in your body under the category of epithelial tissues, right? Okay. So now I told you that you are going to learn about 6 types of epithelial tissues. These are very, very beautiful and interesting, right? Not difficult, huh? Very easy. Right. So epithelial tissues, Pute, first we divide into 2 categories, 2 arms, right? Epithelial tissues into 2 arms. How you decide? Now, the first categorization into 2 arms is by concerning how many cell layers are there in the epithelial tissues. If you have only one cell layer on the basement membrane, single cell layer on the basement membrane, those types of epithelial tissues are called as simple. Simple epithelial tissues, right? And sometimes on the basement membrane, you have more than one cell layer. That means several cell layers are there. Those types of epithelial tissues are called as compound epithelial tissues. Compound epithelial tissues, right? So simple and compound, right? Now, what are the epithelial tissues under simple epithelial tissues and compound epithelial tissues? These are the ones, right? Number one. So now simple means only one cell layer. Some of these cell layers, right, epithelial cell layer, they have very flattened cells. Those epithelial cells are called as squamous. Squamous, simple squamous epithelial tissue. Number two, some are, now this is, the cell is like this, flattened, right, very flat. Some of these cells are like a box, cuboidal, simple cuboidal epithelial tissue, right? And some of these cells are like pillars, slender and like a brick, right? They have a height more than the width, right? Slender and very high. Those are called as columnar, like a columnar, simple columnar epithelial tissue. And the last one is, right? So you have only one cell layer. I'll explain all these things, but it looks like you have several epithelium. Now, when you just observe the epithelial cell for the first instance, we just identify them as several cell layers are there, but actually you have only one cell layer. So therefore, now if you have several cell layers, you call it stratified. Stratified means several cell layers are layered, but it looks like stratified, but not really. So therefore, that type of epithelial tissues are called as pseudostratified epithelial tissue. Pseudo means false. Right? You know, pseudopods. Amoeba is having the pseudopods. Likewise, pseudostratified. Pseudostratified connective tissues. So these are the 4 simple connective tissues. Simple means you have only one cell layer on the basement membrane. Simple squamous epithelial tissue, simple cuboidal epithelial tissue, simple columnar epithelial tissue, and pseudostratified epithelial tissue. Okay, right. Now the compound ones, right? You have 2, right? So a flattened type, flat squamous cells are arranged to several cell layers. So those are called as stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Stratified squamous epithelial tissue, right? And the other one is the transitional transitional means you have a transition type. In one instance it looks like cuboidal and columnar, and in another instance it becomes squamous. Transitional, right? We also have some transitional periods, no, right? So in some months you are very studious, go to the classes and you read the notes and you close the book and again try to recall the things, and you take some past papers and do some questions, very studious. And in some times when you have some, if your girlfriend is not looking at you or you don't get a message, WhatsApp message, then you are in a zombie period, right? Not going to the class, or going to the class and you think about your girlfriend or the boyfriend, right? So transitional, right? Likewise, there are some epithelial tissues also transitional. So we learn those things, transitional, right? Again, so 6 types of epithelial tissues that you are going to learn. Simple and compound. Simple means you have only one cell layer, right? Simple squamous epithelial tissue, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, and the pseudostratified. And the compound, or you have several layers of cell are there in the stratified squamous epithelium and the transitional epithelium, right? So quickly we learn one by one about how the squamous one, cuboidal one, columnar one, and so on. Okay, right. So first we learn the simple squamous epithelial tissue. So here what we are learning, Pute, we are going to get a basic idea about all the types of tissues that you have in your body. Then it is very easy for you to learn about the other organ systems, right? So first one, simple squamous epithelial tissue, right? This is very beautiful, right? So you have the basement membrane like this. Now all these 6 types of epithelial tissues, Pute, not very details you want to know, right? Very basic things, right? How many cell layers are there? What is the shape of the cell and their function and example? Again, shape of the cell, how many cell layers are there, their basic function, and the example. Only 4 points in each of these, right? So number 1, simple squamous epithelium. The name squamous means flattened, right? Simple means only one cell layer, right? So this is how it looks like. At the center, I am just drawing some protrusion just to denote the place of the nucleus. Right. So here you have the nucleus. Right. This is the simple squamous epithelium. Right. So all the cells are flattened and they are plate-like, right? Plate-like, and they are very thin. And now compared to other ones, these are not tightly packed. Therefore, leaking, right? So you have some spaces. So this is very leaky and allow the material exchange from here to here, right? So thin layer, very thin layer, very leaky, and allows the materials to exchange from through the epithelial tissue, right? And how these are how the materials are exchanging according to the diffusion, right? For example, assume that here you have high concentration of oxygen, and then oxygen is absorbed through this epithelium to this place where oxygen is less. So likewise, oxygen, carbon dioxide, respiratory gases, right? All these things can be exchanged through this uh, through this surface. Okay. So when you are drawing the simple squamous epithelium, you name the basement membrane. This is squamous cells. As you have only one cell layer, it is called as the simple squamous epithelial tissue. Okay. And the function is the material exchange, right? Function is pute material exchange through or via diffusion. Via diffusion, right? And examples, very common, interesting examples. What one thing is, in your lungs, your alveoli is made up by simple squamous. What happens? You take the air into your lungs, inspiration, right? Oxygen is taken, and within very few seconds, all this oxygen is absorbed into the blood capillaries, and the carbon dioxide is given back to the air. Exhale carbon dioxide. Inhale oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide. That happens through the alveoli. So alveoli is having simple squamous epithelial tissue. I may පාඩම් කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ, right? So you understand this thing, then you remember. That is why I'm always telling you have to understand the biology, then it is very easy, right? Another example. What is the other example? So just adjacent to the alveoli, you have the blood capillaries, right? So blood capillaries also same thing happens. Carbon dioxide is given back, oxygen is taken. So at the cell level, the blood capillaries go to the kidney and the liver cells. Assume that in the blood capillary near the liver cells, you give the oxygen to the liver cell and you take the carbon dioxide from there, right? You give the nutrients to the liver cell, sometimes the fatty acids, the carbohydrates, right? And you take the waste products, urea is taken out. Likewise, materials are exchanged through the wall of the blood capillaries. So these are the two examples. Right, that's all about the simple squamous epithelial cell, right? So again, summary. Simple means only one cell, right? One cell layer, and that is squamous. So flattened plate-like cells are arranged only one cell layer on the basement membrane. So if you are drawing, if you are writing a short note, so these are the things that you have to write. So draw this one and you will get 1 or 2 points for the diagram. So when you're in biology, Pute, I have every day I am telling, right? If you are drawing a diagram or whatever the picture, right, you have to label it. Without labeling, no marks are given. Na? If 5 marks are given for a picture, for example, you are describing the secondary growth of a dicotyledon shoot system, and you have drawn all the things, the xylem, phloem, and the vascular cambium and the core cambium and everything, but you have not labeled. How many marks? 0. If you have labeled, 5 marks, not labeled, 0. That is how the biology goes. Okay, that is how you lose marks without the proper knowledge, right? Okay, so basement membrane, squamous cells, you name, that's all, right? So main function is the exchange of the materials through via the diffusion, and 2 examples are the alveoli and the blood capillaries. That's all. Okay, right. Shall we write this thing and move on to the second type? Understand? Right? If you have any questions, you can raise any questions. Right. Okay. So, did you write these types of cell layers? No. Right. So, sorry, not the cell layers, the types of epithelial tissues we didn't write, no? So, there are 2 general types of types according to the number of cell layers on the basement membrane, right? Number 1 is simple epithelia. Number 1 is simple epithelia. Sorry, not number 1. Capital A is simple epithelia, and that means you have only 1 cell layer. So what are the 4 types of simple epithelial cells, Pute? The epithelial tissues. Number 1, simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium. Number 1. Number 2, simple cuboidal epithelium. Simple cuboidal epithelium. Simple cuboidal epithelium. Number 3, simple columnar epithelium. Simple columnar epithelium. Number 4, pseudostratified epithelium. Pseudostratified epithelium. PSEUDO. Pseudostratified epithelium. B, capital B is compound epithelia. Compound epithelia. So you have compound means you have several cell layers, right? So number 1 is stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified squamous epithelium. Number 2 is transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium. If I am too fast, Pute, somebody can give a feedback, right? If I am reading too fast, or if I am reading too slow, that one also you can say. Okay, right. So now we will focus on the capital A simple epithelia. The first type of epithelia that you are going to learn is the simple squamous epithelium, right? Okay. So it is a single layer with plate-like cells. Pinggang wage, plate-like cells. It is a single layer with plate-like cells. This type of epithelium is thin and leaky, and they are found in places where materials exchange by diffusion. Materials exchange by diffusion. Materials exchange by diffusion. Examples, remember what are the examples, Pute? Alveoli and blood capillaries. Alveoli and blood capillaries. Okay, right. This is a example showing the simple squamous epithelium, and I have given you a small space, right? In that space, Pute, we will quickly draw the simple squamous epithelial tissue, right? So this is the thing that you have to draw in that box, right? You first draw the basement membrane and name the basement membrane, and draw one layer of squamous cells and name them as the squamous cells, right? So this is the picture that you should draw. I give you couple of minutes, draw it quickly. Simple squamous epithelial tissue. Right. Okay, done. Right. Shall we move on to the second type of simple epithelial tissue? Right. Now, second type, you call it simple cuboidal epithelial tissue. Cuboidal. It's like a cuboid, right? So now you have a game that you are playing with the dice, right? In here you have likewise, right? You have the dice, and you have the snake and ladder games and all these things, right? So these are the dice. So these cells looks like a dice, a cuboid, right? So this is the basement membrane Pute, and on the basement membrane you have only one cell layer, and the shape of the cell is cuboidal, yeah, like a box, like this. simple cuboidal cell layer, right? Cuboidal cells. This is the basement membrane. Very easy, huh? Right. Now, the other thing that you have to remember is, Pute, what is the function of these cuboidal cells, epithelium, right? Now, usually the main function, if the shape is box shape, main function is to secrete, right? So, box means secrete, right? So, the simple cuboidal epithelial tissues are common in places where secretion is a main function. So, main function is the secretion. Now, tell me examples, right? Number one is, now in the kidneys, in the kidney tubules, proximal convoluted tubules and the distal convoluted tubules, you are going to learn in the excretory system. Very interesting, very complex, and right, one of the most favorite area in the examiners, right? Professors who make the paper, right? So in the tubules, kidney tubules, secretion, right? Secretion happens. So one place is kidney tubules. And another example in the glands, right? For example, you take the salivary gland throughout the day, 24 hours, 365 days, right? The saliva is secreting, salivary glands. And what about the thyroid gland? Thyroid, again, the thyroxine, triiodothyronine, and tetrathyronine, all these are secreting. So, thyroid glands. Remember these three examples, right? So, kidney tubules, salivary glands, and the thyroid glands. Again, summary. Simple means you have only one cell layer. Shape is cuboidal, right? So one basement membrane, cuboidal cells are arranged, right? The main function of the simple cuboidal epithelial tissue is to secrete, right? So what are the places or examples for these cuboidal epithelium is placed? Number one is tubules of the kidneys or the kidney tubules, salivary glands, and the thyroid glands. Understood? Got it? Right. We'll write it. Easy, no? Easy, right? So likewise, in every epithelium, you have to learn how the arrangement. You should be able to draw the basic structure and function and example. That's all. Okay. Right. So you'll write these things. I'll share the tute. Right. Simple cuboidal epithelium. It is a single cell layer with dice shaped. DICE, dice shaped. In single, you call it a catechian. Right? Like it is a single cell layer with dice shaped cells specialized for secretion. Specialized for secretion. It is found in kidney tubules, many glands such as thyroid glands, salivary glands, salivary glands. Right, so this is the simple cuboidal epithelium. Right, so I have given you a space to draw that thing. So shall we quickly draw the simple cuboidal epithelium in that box? This is the thing that you have to draw. Right. So basic types of epithelial tissues, you have to know the name, the basic shape of the cell, how many cell layers are there, main function, and examples. That's all. Right? Okay, finished. Okay. Right. Finished, no? Right. We move on to the third type. Now, this is the second type, second in the simple category. Right. Then we'll go to the third type of the category, that is the simple columnar epithelium. Simple columnar epithelium. Right. Simple columnar epithelium. Simple columnar means it's like a column, like a brick shape, right? Very simple. You have the basement membrane puthe, and on the basement membrane you have slender and tall cells like this. Tall cells like this, right? So in these cells, the nuclei are placed somewhere in a lower level, right? Okay, so this is the basement membrane, and these are the columnar cells. Columnar cells, right? So main function. Now again, tell me about the previous one. Simple squamous one, main function, allow the material exchange through the diffusion. In simple cuboidal one, secretion. In simple columnar ones, it is secretion and absorption. Secretion and absorption. So columnar epithelium, the main function is both secretion and the absorption. That is the function, right? Both absorption and secretion, both, right? So example, where do you have, what is the place that absorption and secretion both are happening? Enzymes are secreted and let the digestion happens and make the complex biomolecules to digest into small particles, right? Carbohydrates into monosaccharides and disaccharides, proteins into amino acids, lipids into glycerol and the fatty acids, polynucleotides into nucleotides. So all these things happens in the intestine, small intestine, right? So intestinal lining. Then after breaking down into small particles, they are absorbed. So enzymes are secreted and absorption of the nutrients and the water and the chemicals, right? So example is intestinal lining. This is the example. Understand? Very easy. So simple columnar, brick shaped cells, right? Gadol wage, brick shaped cells, tightly packed, and main function is to secrete and absorption. Example is the intestinal lining. That's all. So number 3, third type. Okay, understood? Right? Shall we write? Okay, I'll share the tute. Right. Simple columnar epithelium. It is a single layer with large and brick shaped cells. It is a single layer with large and brick shaped cells. It is often found in places where secretion or active absorption. Active absorption means pute, you have to spend some energy. ATP is used, right? Remember that. I forgot to emphasize that, right? So secretion and active absorption is important. Active absorption is done. Right? Why? For example, Pute, you take the simple squamous epithelium, there also absorption happens, but passive diffusion, right? Oxygen absorption, carbon dioxide absorption, those things are happening according to a concentration gradient. So that is why it is a passive method and it is diffusion. But when it comes to the simple columnar epithelium, absorption of some of the materials, right? Sometimes the cells are having water, but still you absorb the water. So active absorption. Cells are having the intestinal lining cells are having the amino acids, but still you absorb the amino acids from the gut lumen. So active absorption, right? Secretion and active absorption is important in those places, simple columnar epithelium is faced, right? So example, pute intestinal lining. Intestinal lining. It is the intestinal lining, right? So in this space, we will draw the simple columnar epithelial tissue, right? So you can draw this part, right? Simple columnar epithelium, this part. This is the third type of simple epithelial cells. Simple columnar epithelial tissues. By the time, if you have any questions, let me know. After you draw this one, we'll take a small break of 15 minutes. Right. So this is what we used to have the classes for 3 hours, and we are having a 15 minutes break. But we are planning to now from Pute next week, right? From next week, from the July, the classes are held for 4 hours. So 6 to 10, we'll take a half an hour break in between, and the classes are held for 4 hours. Otherwise, time is not enough. We were planning to extend the time in the June also, but we didn't do that, no. So from the July onwards, we'll do that thing. Okay, finished, Pute? Right, one more thing, we'll do that thing and take a break. The fourth type. Okay. Finished drawing, Right. So fourth type of simple epithelial tissue is pseudostratified fourth type. Pseudo means Pute? False. Folds means now. Pseudopods. Amoeba is having pseudopods, legs. They are not true legs. Likewise, these are not stratified. Pseudo stratified means Pute, several cell layers are arranged, right? Pseudo-stratified epithelial tissue. Why it is categorized under simple category? Because it is having only one. Now look at this one. This is the basement membrane, right? Now you have a cell like this. See this cell, it is attached to the basement membrane. See this one, it is also attached to the basement membrane. Third cell, it is also attached to the basement membrane. Fourth one, it is also attached to the basement membrane. Fifth one, this is also attached to the basement membrane. This one again attached to the basement membrane. This one again attached to the basement membrane. So you have only one cell layer here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I draw 7 cells. All the 7 cells are attached to the basement membrane, so one cell layer. But when you look at this one, it looks like several cell layers are there. Why? Because the nuclei of these cells are arranged in several levels. So by looking at this one, it looks like a stratified epithelium, but really it is a simple one. So that is why it is called as the pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. Right, I forgot to this. Pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. Because these single cell layer is a columnar ones, right? The taller ones. Okay. So, but you have only one cell layer, right? The other thing, important thing, usually these pseudostratified columnar epithelial tissue cells, on their apical surface, the cilia, multiple cilia are arranged. You know the cilia and flagella, right? You learned in the unit number 2. What is the arrangement of the cilia? Internal structure, 9 plus 2 appearance, right? Made by the microtubules, right? So these cilia are arranged on the apical surface in this pseudostratified columnar. So what is the function of cilia? Cilia and the flagella function is the locomotion, right? So flagella is the locomotion. That means if you want to now take the sperm wants to move, so they swim by using the flagella. Now here the cilia means you have numerous layers of cilia on one cell, and all the cells, you take the whole tissue, all the cilia are moving according to a rhythm, right? So you have a rhythmic activity. Likewise, now in the cricket matches, have you seen that IPL and LPL when you hit a 6 or a 4 boundary, right? Or girls are cheering, girls like one, right? In a pattern, right? So cilia also moving like that, right? So all the cilia is moving in a rhythmic pattern. Therefore, the material that is there on the epithelium can be moved. What is the thing that you have? You have the mucus, right? So here you have the mucus. So with the action of the cilia, the mucus is moved to one direction, right? Okay. So where can you see, right? So the basic function of the pseudostratified column epithelium is to move the materials on the epithelial surface. So if you have the mucus, you move the mucus, right? For example, your nasal epithelium, your trachea, right, is having mucus, right? So nasal wall and the tracheal wall is made by the pseudostratified column epithelium, right? So when you inhale the air, right, all the dust particles, foreign bodies, everything is trapped in the mucus, and then that dirty mucus is removed and new fresh mucus is secreted, right? So there is a protective mechanism, right? So again, summary, you have single cell layer but various variety of cell height. Therefore the nuclei are placed on several levels. Therefore it looks like a stratified squamous stratified epithelial layer, but it is really only one cell layer, right? So the apical surface, you have the cilia, and the cilia with the action of the cilia, right, the movement of the mucus happens to a one direction, right? So examples are nasal passage. One thing is the nasal passage, Pute, and trachea. Okay, right. So that's it. This is the basement membrane. These are the pseudostratified pseudostratified columnar cells. Okay, right. Understood. Easy. That's it. Right. So those are the four types of simple epithelial tissues. Right. So shall we finish? Write this one. Another question has asked by Namasta. Yes. So is it just absorption or active? Active absorption, Pute. Active absorption. Now, look at this one. Look at me. Now, absorption can be happen in two ways. One thing is the passive absorption. The other one is the active absorption. For example, Pute, think about the respiration in inspiration and expiration. So what happens? Oxygen rich air come inside your lungs with the inhalation, right? Oxygen rich oxygen came into the lungs, and in the alveoli what has happened? The blood has taken the deoxygenated blood. So at the alveoli, blood is having low oxygen concentration, air is having high oxygen concentration. So without any energy, passively, the oxygen from the air is absorbed into the blood. That is called as passive absorption, or another alternative word used for that thing is the diffusion. Now, can you remember unit number 4? We learned about these types of the transport systems, right? Imbibition, diffusion, right? Osmosis, all these things, right? So diffusion means without any energy, you don't need to spend ATP. Without spending energy, the materials are exchanged. So each and every time this passive passage, a passive absorption happens according to a concentration gradient. right? If it is passive, right? If it is diffusion all the time from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, oxygen travels from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. Carbon dioxide travels from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. Water travels from the higher water concentration to the lower concentration. If it is sodium, sodium travels from higher concentration to the lower concentration. If it is magnesium, magnesium travels from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, right? So you don't need the energy, right? But another way that the absorption can happen is the active absorption, right? That means now in the gut, the lining cells, Pute, you take the intestinal cells, those cells are having higher amount of fatty amino acids. Just imagine as an example, high amount of amino acids. But in the gut, you have low amount of amino acids. So if the diffusion happens, what happens? The amino acids from the cells will leak into the lumen, and that the available amino acids also will be available on the toilet following day. Right? So, but that has to be prevented. Then what is happening in the intestine? Active absorption, right? So, even though the intestinal cells are having higher concentration of amino acids, still whatever the available amino acids from the lumen is absorbed. So that cannot happen passively. So there you have to use energy and taking. ATP is spent. So that sort of absorption where you spend energy, where you spend ATP and absorb is called as active absorption. So in simple columnar epithelium, right? So what happens? Secretion of various enzymes and the mucus and all these things and hormones like gastrin, right? Those are excreted and absorption happens, active absorption. So the function of the simple columnar epithelium is secretion and active absorption. I hope you understood. Okay. So, understood, no? Right, right. Okay, right. Okay, good, good. If you have any questions, you can ask, right? Right, shall we go to the tute? Right. Okay, I'll share the tute to discuss the fourth type of simple squamous epithelium. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium, Pute. Right. So this tissue consists of a single cell layer. This tissue consists of a single cell layer, and cells are not of equal height. They are not of equal height. Nuclei of cells are located at different levels, therefore appears as several layers. In many vertebrates, this epithelium has ciliated cells. They have ciliated cells that form a mucous membrane, right? The cilia helps to sweep the mucus along with the surface, right? Here the mucus should be MUCUS, cut this O. Here the cilia helps to sweep the mucus along the surface, right? Examples, nasal passage, Pute, nasal passage, and second one is the trachea, nasal passage and trachea. So these are the pictures of the pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Shall we draw that one, right, in this space given? Right. Okay. Draw this picture. Pseudostratified columnar epithelial tissue in the space given. While you are drawing, if you have if you need any clarification of any point, you raise the question, raise the point. Okay, finish, Pute? Right. So we discussed about the, now again a summary. First, today we are going to learn about the types of tissues. Right. In human body, 4 types of tissues are there: epithelial tissues, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and the nervous tissue. Right. So first we are discussing about the epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues, there are 2 types: single, simple, and the compound ones. So altogether you have 6. So under the simple category, that means on the basement membrane you are having only one single cell layer. So there are 4: simple squamous epithelium, simple cuboidal epithelium, simple columnar epithelium, and pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So we discussed those 4, right? So now the time is 8. We'll take 15 minutes break and we'll start the class at 8:15, and we'll start with the compound types of tissues, epithelial tissues. Okay, right? Okay, we'll take a 15 minutes break, Pute. Right. Okay. So I hope you had some coffee or tea. Amma hadala dunna neda monawa hari. But remember, in the interval, don't take the dinner. Otherwise, in the latter half, you will sleep. Right. So you take some refreshment thing, either hot coffee or tea. Your mommy will make them. Hmm? Right. So we discussed about the simple uh, epithelial tissues, the four types, right? And then we are left with another two, which is compound. Compound means you have more than one cell layers, right? So number one under that compound category is the stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified squamous epithelium. Students are doing no? Majority, see. Right. Okay, right. So here what happens, Pute? You have the basement membrane, right? On that, you have one cell layer which is basically cuboidal in shape. And on that, you have another cell layer, right? On that, another cell layer. When it goes up there, right, the shape becomes somewhat flattened or becomes squamous, right? Right. This is what happens. So the cell layer which is near to the basement membrane has a cuboidal shape, and when it goes up, gradually the shape becomes squamous epithelium, right? So this is called as the stratified squamous epithelium. So what happens is, usually these cells near the basement membrane, Pute, they are having a high cell dividing rate. Regeneration rate is very high, right? Regeneration rate is very high near this basement layer, right? Therefore, from the mitosis, you produce new cells. Where the new cells are produced, Pute? Near the basement membrane. And when the new cells are produced, the new cells are given to the free space area. And then what happens? The second cell layer is replaced by the new cell layer. That one, third one is replaced by the second one. Fourth one is replaced by the third one. Likewise, when the new cells are produced here, you can hear me, no? Right. When the new cells are produced here near the new basement membrane, they will replace the above layers. And finally, the most squamous or outermost cell layers will be dried up and will traverse, or they will be removed from the epithelium. Right? These ones are removed. So routinely, new cells are generated. They replace the above cells, and the outermost one is removing, right? Okay, so this is what happens in the stratified squamous epithelium, right? So remember, so several cell layers are there, high regeneration rate is there, and the outermost cell layer is frequently removed. So these type of epithelium is there in places where frequent friction happens, right? Frequent friction happens. That means a mechanical friction they have to face almost all the time they have to face mechanical friction. One example is the skin, right? You wear the clothes, you touch it, you feel it, right? And all the things are done. You are washing, you are having a bath, and the soap is applied, and you rough off with various materials, right? So frequent friction is happening. So you have the stratified squamous epithelium on the outer skin. Other than the skin, another three places are there in the body, Pute. So examples, one thing is the skin. And tell me another three places where mechanical friction is there. So that those places has to undergo mechanical friction frequently. One thing is the mouth. You eat various things. So the oral buccal cavity, right, lining is stratified squamous epithelium mouth. Then what about the other end? Anus, again, they undergo frequent friction, isn't it? Anus. And then, what is the other point? It is the vagina. Vagina also undergo various frictions. You know that. Vagina. Why the vagina is having this one? You know that, no? Right. So skin, mouth, anus, and the vagina are the four examples where you have the stratified squamous epithelium, right? So this is the basement membrane. These are the basal cell layers. These are the outermost cell layers, right? So sometimes cell dies when it reaches the outer surface, right? So this is the stratified squamous epithelium, and main function is to prevent the damage from the mechanical friction. Prevent the damage from the mechanical friction. So the example where you can see the stratified squamous epithelial cells are the outer skin, mouth, anus, and the vagina. Understood? Clear, right? So that is the first type of compound epithelial tissue, right? Okay, shall we write this one? Right. That is my tute. Right. So compound epithelia. Right. Number one, stratified squamous epithelium. This tissue is composed of a number of layers of cells. This epithelium regenerates rapidly. Regenerates rapidly. There, the cell regeneration rate is very high. Regenerates rapidly. Cell division produces new cells near the basement membrane, and old cells are sloughed off and replaced by the new cells. The epithelium is found on the surfaces where they are subjected to abrasion. Subjected to abrasion. You know abrasion, right? Right? So frequently the mechanical abrasion happens. Subjected to abrasion such as number one, outer skin. Number two, lining of mouth, anus, and vagina. Number one is outer skin. Number two is lining of mouth, anus, and vagina. Mouth, anus, and vagina. right? Okay. So in this space, shall we draw the stratified squamous epithelium, this picture? Right? We'll quickly draw this one. Easy neither, right? So, you know, if you understand with the rational scenario, right, with the reason why this is, why this is. So, if you are learning these things with the reason or rational pattern, very easy to remember, right? So, my main intention again and again, right, my request for you is to understand the concepts, right? So, I am using a quite different method in teaching, right? Which is unique for me, right? I'm marketing myself, unique for me. So take the maximum advantage of that thing, right? So by the class, at the class, you understand the concepts and all these things that I teach, then it is very easy for you to remember, right? Okay. So by today, when the class is over, you close the tute and take 10 minutes and write down all the things that I told. Within 10 minutes, you can jot it down, the summary, right? So if you miss some of the things, you refer the tute and see. So you do it today and do it again on next Tuesday, right, before the next Wednesday, and then take the 4 classes and do that summarization at the end of the month. So 3 times of repetition of recalling. Just I'm not asking you to just read the note. You close the note and make a summary. So make a summary today, make a summary on next Tuesday, and make summary on the end of the July of all these 4 classes. Okay, that is how you remember the things without forgetting. Right, got it done. Shall we move to the next one, the second one? Finish, no? Right. Okay. So the last type of epithelial tissue, or the second type of compound epithelial tissue, that is transitional epithelial tissue. Transitional epithelial tissue. Now, here what happens, you have a transition period. In one time, it looks like a different pattern, and another time it is different, right? So this happens in organs such as you undergo the change in the shape due to the pressure, right? For example, you take a organ, right? When the pressure is increasing by filling the fluid or the air, whatever the thing, if the pressure is increased and when the organ is distended, you have a different pattern. And the pressure is low where you don't have the fluid and the organ is relaxed, you have a different shape. This is transitional. The best example is the urinary bladder, right? So when you have take a lot of water and now you have the urgency to urinate, right? You have the urgency to urinate and your bladder is full. And sometimes this happens in the class also, no? Physical class, right? My online class, you can stand up and go to the bathroom, no? But don't go, huh? Right? So what happens when the bladder is filled, right? The bladder is like this, right? So you have the two kidneys. Ureters are coming and the fluid is filled here, right? Urine is filled. Now the bladder is distended, right? Bladder is maximally distended. Now you have very high urgency of urinating, micturition, right? So what happens? The cells are stretched, right? Cells are stretched and allow the maximum volume to the bladder. The wall become very stretched like a balloon, right? So the epithelium looks like flattened, like squamous, right? So this is the distended movement, right? But when it relax, you go to the toilet and you remove about 2 liters of urine, right? And now you are relaxed. Wow, right? You feel a utter feeling of relaxation, isn't it? So I waste this one, right? So the kidneys are there. Now you have released the uh, urine. Now it is very relaxing, right? It is relaxing. You have the urethra here. So now it is not distended, it is flexed, the relaxed, right? It is laxed now. So at that place, in that instance, the this is the basement membrane. The epithelia lining the bladder wall looks like cuboidal. Now they are really relaxed. So it becomes more cuboidal when it is relaxed. When it is distended, this becomes squamous. So what is the basic function of this transitional epithelium? It can stretch and extend it to some extent, and you can increase the capacity. You can increase the volume, which is very, very important, right? So when the transitional epithelium is there, you can extend and you can increase the volume of the bladder. You can increase the volume of the ureter. You can increase the volume of the urethra, and you can allow more fluid to accommodate, right? So that is the main function, right? So examples of places where this transitional epithelium is there, right? Urinary bladder, ureters are these ones, right? Coming from the kidneys to the bladder, ureters, and urethra means from the bladder to the external orifice, right? In males, it is longer. In females, it is shorter. So these are the examples for transitional epithelium, bladder, ureters, and the urethra. Okay, that's all. This is how the change in the pressure, depending on the changing of the pressure or depending on whether the organ is distended or not, they change their shape. So that will allow to increase the volume and accommodate more and more fluid, which is very, very important. Okay, right. Shall we write this one? So that is the last type of epithelial tissue. Last type. Right, that's all. Let's in. Right. Okay. So we'll complete this one. Right. Transitional epithelium puthe is composed of number of layers of cells, right? Constituting the organs that can change the shape. That can change the shape. That can change the shapes depending on the distension of the organ. When the organ is filled with fluid, cells on the topmost layer of this epithelium can stretch and appear flattened. Alternatively, they can also appear cuboidal with a rounded shape when the fluid pressure is low. Right? This epithelium is found lining the urinary bladder, ureters, and urethra. Urinary bladder, ureters, and urethra. Right. So that's it about the epithelial tissues, Pute. Right. Any questions, Pute? Any questions in the epithelial tissues? So you have 4 types of tissues in the body: epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscle tissues, and nervous tissues. So out of these 4, 1 category is finished, epithelial tissues. Then we have to start the connective tissues, which is very, very important. Okay. One question has come. Yeah. Asubi, yes. So I'm in our resource book, the transitional epithelium tissue is not mentioned. All right. So there is a big confusion, yes, in the previous what is the previous episode of the some you got revised editions came, no? So let me tell you. In the previous one, the transitional epithelium was there, but in the newest one, it is not mentioned, right? So that's okay. But after 2017, in in 2 occasions, these questions, one MCQ question came from this one, and therefore that's true. That's true, right? So this one is not included in your new thing, but better to know. That is why I just told you, right? So no worries, no worries, right? All the other things are important. This one also, just remember that there are transitional. This thing is there. Any questions, Pute? Right. Okay. So that is about the epithelial tissue, right? Now, the second type of tissue is the connective tissues, which is very, very important. Connective tissues, right? Now, understand this very clearly, right? Right, okay. Now, out of these four types of tissues, Pute, the epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and the nerve tissue, out of these four, the most abundant type of tissues in the body is the connective tissues. Most abundant type of tissues, right? So basically, as the name says, connective tissues means these are the tissues where you connect. Right now, you take the human body, right? How many in it? Right. Right. So various organs are there. You have the heart, two lungs, and the liver, pancreas, the gastrointestinal system, and the thyroid is there. The brain is there somewhere here, right? All the sensory organs are there. The muscular tissues are there. Bones are there, right? And various types of organs are there in our body, right? Now, the physical connectivity, physical connection in between different organs, the structural connectivity, the functional connectivity among these organs are done by the connective tissue, right? So you connect the different organs in your body structurally and functionally by the connective tissues. I'm repeating again. You structurally and functionally connects different organs and organ systems by the connective tissues. Okay, I'll tell you the examples. What are the connective tissues? Then you will understand this thing, right? So one thing is the loose connective tissue, loose connective tissue, right? That means it is they are under the skin and covering all the organs, covering the heart, covering the lungs, covering the pancreas, covering the kidneys, covering the liver, right? It's like a sponge like thing, right? So it gives the protection and it gives various nutrients, right? Likewise, loose connective tissue. And you have the then second type is the dense connective tissue. That means you have the ligaments and the uh, tendons in your body, right? That is fibrous, fibrous connective tissue, and also you call it dense connective tissue, right? That is the second type. And then you have the adipose tissue. You know the tendons, and I'll explain all these things just for the outline. What are the types of tissue that you have under the connective tissue? That is why I'm just mentioning the names, right? So all your muscles are attached to the bone by the tendons, right? And your elbow joint, knee joint, and all these joints are moving and flexing, extension, and everything happens, but you keep the stability, right? By binding by a very strong rope-like things. Those are called as the ligaments, right? So all these ligaments and tendons are made by the connective tissue, another type. And your fat, your stomach and your breast and all these things have some fat pads, that is adipose tissue, again a connective tissue. adipose tissues, right? And then now the next three you are very familiar. Blood, you take the blood, blood is a connective tissue. You connect all these things, right? And then you take the cartilages, connective tissue. You take the bones, connective tissue, right? So loose connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue, adipose tissue, blood, cartilage, bones, all these are connective tissues. So the main common function of these things are the connecting, structurally and functionally connect the different organs in your body. Understood? Clear? Right. So now I am teaching you the introduction to the connective tissues. So one thing is the main common function. You know that what is the main common function? Structurally and functionally connect different types of organs. Second thing, you have to know what are the examples or what are the types of connective tissues. You are going to learn each and every one separately. Then thirdly, there is a common structure of the connective tissue. That common structure deviates slightly, and it deviates and you get the loose connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue, and the adipose tissue, blood, cartilage, and bones. But there is a common structure for all these 6 tissues. Now you have to know what is that common structure. I will teach you. Common structure, right? Now here, Puti, this is the common structure. One thing is you have 3 components in the connective tissue. How many? 3 components. 1, 2, 3. Right? Number 1 component is they are having cells. They are having cells. Various types of cells are there. Number 1, cells are there. Number 2, outside the cells, right? All these cells are arranged in a medium. In a medium. Cells are arranged in a medium. This medium is called as the matrix. You have a matrix. Second one. So this is the matrix, this area. And the third one is the fibers. You can see the fibers, right? Various types of fibers in your connective tissue, right? Cells, fibers, and matrix. So these are the 3 components of any connective tissue. You take blood, you take cartilage, you take bone, you take tendons, you take ligaments, you take areolar tissue, whatever the thing, all are having cells, matrix, and fibers. But the number of cells and the type of cells differs from tissue to the tissue. The nature of the matrix, whether it is a liquid one, whether it is a semi-solid jelly-like thing, whether it is a stony hard one, that depends on the type of the connective tissue. But you have a matrix. The type of fibers that you have, that differs according to the type of connective tissue, right? So the cells, matrix, and fibers can change the number and the type, but all are having these 3 components: cells, matrix, and the fibers. Or in other words, you have a matrix and the cells and fibers are embedded in the matrix. cells and fibers are embedded in the matrix. So this is the common structure of the connective tissue, right? Now I am going to tell you what are the types of cells that you have, what are the types of matrix that you can have, what are the types of fibers that you can have. Okay, right. Now, when you take the cells, Pute, basically there are 5 types of cells can be there. 5 types of cells can be there. Okay. You can have fibroblasts, right? You can have macrophages, right? You can have the mast cells, important in immunization, right? And you can have the fat depositing cells or fat cells, and the last one is white blood cells or leukocytes. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, fat cells, and leukocytes are the 5 types of cells that can be there in the connective tissue. I just explained what are the functions of this. I told you that there are some fibers inside this connective tissue. No? These fibers are secreted by fibroblasts. So fibroblast cells are there for the secretion of different types of fibers. Macrophages, you may have heard, that large cell to eat or phagocyte the foreign bacteria, viruses, and foreign bodies. That is for the protection, for the immunity. You have the macrophages. Mast cells, again, you release some immunogenic chemicals like histamine and heparin by the mast cells. Fat cells, deposition of the extra energy in the form of fat is done by the fat cells. Now, very tummy people, right? So when you now there are people with this type of abdomen, no, right? So here, all this is fat deposition is by the adipose tissue, fat cells, and leukocytes means various types of white blood cells. Like you can have the neutrophils, the leukocytes, mast cells, eosinophils, likewise, right? So basically, 5 types of cells are there: fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, fat cells, and leukocytes. In a common, what I am explaining is the structure of a common connective tissue. This is common for all the 6 types, right? That can be changed, but this is the common one, right? So 3 categories are there: cells, fibers, and matrix. So these are the 5 types of cells. Okay, then I'll tell you the I'll guess this one. What are the types of fibers that you can get? Types of fibers. Number 1, you can get collagen fibers, very common. This is the commonest one. Collagen fibers. It is very common in the tendons and ligaments, right? And the second one is the reticular fibers. And the third one is the elastic fibers. So you have 3 types of fibers in a connective tissue: collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and the elastic fibers. Then about the matrix. About the matrix, Pute. Now, matrix means the medium where these cells and fibers are embedded. sometimes it can be a liquid medium. Example, blood. In the blood, the medium is liquid, watery. It looks like water. So all the red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, they are embedded in a liquid type matrix. So the matrix can be a liquid type. Or else it can be a semi-solid one, like in adipose tissue, right? Semi-solid, jelly-like. Or it can be very solid one, like in bones, stony hardness, solid. So the matrix, nature of the matrix can change, whether it can be a liquid one, or it can be a semi-solid one, or it can be a solid one. Right, now again summary. This is the common structure of a connective tissue. Connective tissues are the most abundant type of tissues in your body. Examples are loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, the fat adipose tissue, and the blood, cartilages, and the bones. So all of these connective tissues have a common structure. So common structure means they have three components. They have the cells, they have the fibers, and cells and fibers are embedded in a matrix. So these are the 5 types of cells that can have fibroblasts, which secrete the fibers, macrophages, which engulf the foreign bodies, mast cells, which secrete the immune chemicals like heparin and the histamine, fat cells, which deposit the additional extra fats and energy, leukocytes, various types of white blood cells again involved in the immunity. And you can have 3 types of fibers. The most common one is the collagen and the reticular type reticular fibers, and the elastic, which gives some elastic physical appearance to stretch and come back to the original shape. Elastic fibers are there. 3 types of fibers: collagen, reticular, elastic. Collagen fibers, reticular fibers, elastic fibers. And all these 5 cells and 3 types of fibers are embedded in a matrix, in a medium. You don't use the medium, it is the matrix. So the physical nature of the matrix can be a very solid one like bones, or else it can be a semi-solid one like in areolar tissue, or it can be a very liquid one like in blood. Right? Understood? Okay. Right. So this is the common introductive explanation about the connective tissues. Right. Understood? Shall we write these things in the note? Okay, I'll share the tute. We will write this thing and finish, huh? Okay, right. Connective tissue kute. Right? Characteristics. Connective tissues are the most abundant tissues in the body. Most abundant tissues in the body. Most abundant tissues in the body. That helps to connect organs and tissues. That help to connect organs and tissues. Organs and tissues together structurally and functionally. Structurally and functionally. These types of tissues consist of different types of cells, different types of cells, different types of cells scattered in a large amount of extracellular matrix, extracellular matrix, extracellular matrix containing different types of fibers, containing different types of fibers. So matrix may be semi-solid, within bracket jelly-like, semi-solid. Number 2, liquid. Number 3, solid, within bracket dense and rigid. Matrix can be semi-solid, liquid, or solid, right? So different types of cells can be found in the matrix, such as number 1, fibroblasts, which secrete the fiber proteins, fibroblasts. Number 2, macrophages engulf the foreign particles and any cell debris of phagocytosis. Macrophages. Number 3, mast cells that secrete heparin and histamine. In addition, fat cells, storage and insulation. Last one, leukocytes for protection, right? So those are the types of cells. Then there are 3 different types of fibers. They are number 1, collagen fibers. Number 2, reticular fibers. Collagen fibers provide strength and flexibility. Number 2, reticular fibers join connective tissues to the adjacent tissues. And number 3, elastic fibers make the tissue elastic. Right. So let me introduce the functions also, right? There are basically 4 functions are there. Pute. 4 functions are there. Give me 2 minutes. Huh? The first function is the binding and giving the structural support, right? Binding and structural support. Think about the tendons, think about the ligaments, about the cartilages, bones, right? So they give that structural support and the binding, okay? And other than that, you give the protection. The skull gives the protection. The bone system, skeletal system protects all the internal organs, the heart, lungs, liver, everything is protected. So the second one is the protection, Pute. Second function, right? Then take the blood, right, from one place to other place, oxygen, carbon dioxide, various hormones, nutrients, the what do you call the ions, right, electrolytes, everything is transported throughout the body. Transport of materials, Pute. Transport of materials, right? And you think about the fat tissue surrounding our body underneath the skin. It acts as protecting the temperature inside the body, insulation. Right. So these are the 4 functions of the connective tissue. Binding and the structural support, protection, transport of the materials, and the insulations are the common 4 functions of the connective tissues. Got it? Right. Shall we write those functions? Right. Functions. Number 1, binding and structural support. binding and structural support, binding and structural support. Number two, protection, number two, protection. Number three, transport of materials, transport of materials. Number four, insulation. Number four, insulation. Right. So there are 6 different types of connective tissues we will write. Put number one, loose connective tissue, loose connective tissue, loose connective tissue within bracket areolar tissue. Number two, fibrous connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue. Number two, fibrous connective tissue. Number three, adipose tissue, adipose tissue. Number four, blood. Number four, blood. Number five, cartilages. Number five, cartilages. Number six, bones. Number six, bones. Right, I have given you some pictures of blood, loose connective tissue, adipose tissue, cartilage, bones, and the dense tissues. Right. Okay, so from the next week, we'll learn one by one about all these 6 connective tissues and then the muscle tissue and the nerve tissue. So we'll complete this tute on the next week, right? So today, the basic main summary, you have 11 organ systems in your body that you are going to learn in this study in this unit. Before going to learn those organ systems, you are going to get a basic idea about the tissues that you have in your body, because these tissues make the organs and the organ systems. So there are 4 types of tissues: epithelial, connective, muscle, and the nerves tissue. So we learned about the epithelial tissues, and then we started learning the connective tissue. So there are 6 types of connective tissues are there. Those things we'll learn next week, and about the muscle tissues and the nerves tissue. Right? Okay. Any questions from today's teaching, Bhute? Or from previous teaching? Yes. I'll give you 1 minute. So don't worry, if you have any questions, you can ask. Right. So some of students have sent the message that message should be given in the group. I'll put a message, right? So now here you have joined the class now. I told you, that is why I told you that you have to join early, because this is for most of the students. Some of the students, this is the first day. So therefore, I ask you to join early, because if you have any issues, you can solve it. But after the class commencement, also some have sent the issues. So anyway, I'll send them the recording. Right. Any questions, Pute? So next week onwards, right? Every day you have to enter in the same way. Go to the biomania.lk and select the correct class 2027 and get that particular day's icon. Go into that one, and your link and the relevant materials are shared in that one. Okay, right? So okay, that's the way. And if you have your friends in our group, right, please help them to clarify this thing, how to get entered to the our main domain of biomania. Okay, right. So looks like no questions. Okay, so we'll call it a day, and We'll meet you on next Wednesday, and on every Wednesday we'll have the class from next day, right? From next Wednesday, class will be from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and in between that we'll take a 30 minutes break. So you can have a relax mind and do the class. Few questions came. All good, sir. Thank you and good night. Okay, all clear. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Okay. Thank you for your kind feedback. Right. Okay. See you. Good night, and we'll meet you on next Wednesday. Bye. Okay. Thank you. Good night. Good night today. Good night. Okay. Good night.